Hello and welcome to Banking Frontiers Live. I'm Sneha Agrawal and today I'm here to introduce you to one of the leading lady luminaries of the BFSI sector on the occasion of International Women's Day. Today for the same, we have Mabel Chacko from Open Financial Technologies. Welcome ma'am.
Hi.
So today we'll be talking about risk taking. So ma'am, what are the top 2 or 3 risks that you have taken in your professional career?
Starting up itself is a big risk for me because I come from a family of government servants and my parents were both bankers. So, always for me, starting up was, leaving my comfort zone. And I've done this 5 times over right now. So, each time I transition from my comfort zone to the, risk taking zone. I started in 2006 in Ahmedabad and I was trying to build Touch to Pay, which was a biometric payment startup that was enabling cash withdrawals at local Kirana stores. I struggled a lot doing that startup as a solo entrepreneur and a woman entrepreneur because I never had anyone to I could reach out to get guidance from, and even the startup scene in Ahmedabad was pretty nascent at that point of time. I also struggled to get the right kind of resources to build technology. Meanwhile, doing some research, I came to know about another startup that was doing something similar in Kerala, and I connected with the founder. His name was Anish Achutin. So he was building Cash Next and doing things in Kerala using another technology, not biometric, but enabling contactless payments on mobile phones and using it for branchless banking, using Cash Next. And the biggest risk I would say is joining him in Cash Next as a co-founder at that point of time, and moving to Bangalore for that matter. Because when we moved to Bangalore, we didn't have more than 5,000 rupees in hand. I have never met Anish in person, and that was a very big risk we took because there was an ecosystem that was there in Bangalore. There was a mentor network and people we could reach out to and investors who were there in Bangalore. And sadly, that was not the situation in Kerala or Ahmedabad at that point of time when we were doing this. So it was a risk that paid off really well because in Anish, I not just found the best co-founder I could have because I've done 4 other startups along with him, but I also found my perfect life partner also in him.
Okay.
So some risks pay off really, really well, and this was one thing that paid off well for me.
So that's wonderful. It was quite an adventurous risk moving to another city and joining a person you haven't even met.
Don't
So
know.
that's wonderful. So ma'am, moving on to the next question. So what are the lessons that you have learned from these risks that you have taken?
Not specific to the risk itself, but overall, I wanted to share 2 startup lessons, two lessons from my journey of doing 5 fintech startups. The very first lesson I would say is to build things that people want. It's very important as an entrepreneur to know who you're building your product or service for, who your true customer is, and once you realize that, spend time to listen to your customer and see what they're talking about or how they're interacting with your product. If you do that, you would never have to worry so much about product market fit. The second lesson I would say for me and for any entrepreneur is to fail fast. See, when we're building a product, we always want to put everything perfect, going out. So what we do is often land up spending 1 or 2 years behind building the whole gamut of things, and then put things out the more trying to put the most perfect product out. But what happens is that if that is not something that the user wants, then you would have spent 2 years of your life and a lot of money and effort, just chasing something that really wasn't meant to be. So I would always suggest entrepreneurs to put the very basic framework of what their product or service is out in the market, let users interact with it, see how that adoption goes. If it works, go ahead, build the rest of it, and you have a great use case in front of you. If it doesn't, then you would have saved yourself a lot of time and energy in trying to build something that people didn't want.
Okay. So today's world is quite consumer oriented.
Yeah.
So the next question is, How do you control the fear that is associated with any major risk?
Well, entrepreneurs by nature are risk takers and pretty fearless bunch that way because we put our everything to start up something. We literally put all the bets on the table in the process of starting up our company. Now, one key method I would say to control your fear is not to overthink, because as we always need to weigh our pros and cons, but do that once or twice. Don't keep dwelling on thinking, is this correct, is this wrong, because if the more you think, the more afraid you would become, right? So that is one thing. And then always understand that there would be situations that would be adverse. Not everything will work as per your plan. So just keep believing that this too shall pass, and keep moving ahead. Don't quit and don't settle for in any situation. Keep hustling.
Yeah, that's an important point, to not overthink. Even I tend to overthink about a lot of things, so I try to control that. So,
Right.
ma'am, how do you draw the line between risk taking and gambling?
See, there's actually a very big difference between risk taking and gambling, because when you're taking a risk, you've done some bit of calculations, what the consequences are, how things are going to turn out to be, and you also would have factored one or two other ways this thing would work out, and you would have a plan B of sorts in your vicinity somewhere. So that is about taking risk. But then when you're gambling, it's only a guesswork that's happening. There's no supporting data or anything that is available. It's just you're just playing with luck. And when doing a startup, that is not a great thing to do. I mean, if you want to gamble, go to a casino. Don't build a company. But if you're taking a risk, then yes, you would have weighed some bit of pros and cons, and then you would have started building on top of that. And that I feel is the biggest difference between taking a risk and putting up a gamble.
Yes, okay. So, do you see any differences in risk taking between men and women?
I don't think so, but normally they say that men take risk when they are under stress, and women take risk when they are don't take risk when they are under stress, or they become risk averse in stressful situations. I personally don't feel that it's got something to do with your gender per se. It is just about taking calculated risks at different points of time, and then being accountable for whatever decisions you would have taken. Otherwise, it just becomes another gamble altogether.
Absolutely. So, this is the last question. Which books, according to you, are a must read for younger women?
Not just for younger women, but for the entrepreneurs in general. See, all books are good, but there are two books that actually had a personal impact for me. One is Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. It's a book from where I learned a lot of leadership styles and lessons. And there's another book that I would suggest all entrepreneurs read. It is called The Power of Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. If you practice, many of those philosophies, then you won't be fearing what you do, because you would have already had a vision, and you would be working towards achieving that vision.
Okay, I have that book, The Power of Subconscious Mind. I haven't read it, but I'll definitely try to read it now.
Please do. I hope it transforms your life just as it did for me.
Yes, I'll definitely. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here and sharing those
Yep,
wonderful insights. And we hope to have more such conversations with you in the future. Thank you.
sure. Thanks a lot, Sneha.